Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for joining us today. As we're getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Yeah. So my professional career has been 15 years within the same global organization. Started out in, you know, junior sales rep with a very small territory, trying to light the world on fire. My first job, my first what I would call real job, in my early 20s, and then just have kind of moved up through organization from there. So again, it's very small territory, all the way up to today, which is regional management of about 8 states within the central United States, and have a team of 7 sales reps today that I work with in going out and seeing customers and trying to help people achieve their goals and accomplish what it is we're trying to accomplish every day.
Ooh, why sales for you, though?
Listen, why sales for anybody? It's just did I start out school and everything looking to go be in sales? I don't think so. It's hard for me to remember that far back. Uh, you know, when I have 2 kids, and it was recently Halloween. They wanted to dress up as firefighters and princesses and astronauts and police officers and doctors, and nobody wanted to dress up as
Rep.
the salesperson on a flight to Chicago or anything like that. But
Go to the
um,
airport. Yeah.
yeah, that certainly didn't happen, but I've been successful at it. I got into it early, and enjoyed success, found an opportunity, and have expanded on that opportunity. And it's blink of an eye, 15, 20 years later, here we are, right? I'm, sitting here in a remote office in my house with 2 kids pounding away upstairs doing who knows what up there right now. But time goes by fast, right? But it's
Well,
what I ended up.
ooh, how long did it take you to get comfortable at it, though? Because we're not taught it at school. I don't know if your folks were salespeople or you had role models as a kid.
Certainly, folks weren't salespeople. No, my parents, one was an engineer, one was more on operational side of things. My sister, who I refer to as the brains of the family, is the CFO with the degree, with a master's degree in accounting, which looks like, it doesn't look like anything to me. It's not something that uh, entertains me or interests me or anything like that. But when did I get comfortable with it? Really, that's a great question. I've never considered how to answer that question. It certainly took some time. It's you're so when I first started my career with the organization and with I am today, I look back at my time and I think about my first sales calls, and I just look back and think about how bad I was. Like going in and asking the questions right off the spreadsheet that everybody tells me that I have to go in there and ask, and I'm so robotic about it, and no personality, and it's reading from a script and all these things, and just no personality, not trying to get to know anybody, just saying, how do you procure your stuff today, how do you like to buy stuff today, and it's just so robotic.
Yeah.
Um, so what I try to concentrate on today, at least, and what I try to work with my team on is, let your personality shine. Try to figure out if you're going to vibe with the person that's sitting on the other end of the phone with you, or sitting across the desk for you, now that we're actually able to get back out and see folks face to face again with some, limited interaction. So it certainly took a while. I don't know if it took me 5 years. I don't know if it took me 10. I don't know if it took me 15.
Because
I would consider myself comfortable today,
yeah,
uh, but I certainly wasn't in the beginning.
because usually it takes until you get the first big deal or you become number one that first time.
I,
Where
I, I certainly remember the first big fish. You're absolutely right about that.
it kind of gives you that confidence, whether it was a bluebird or something you struggled for years.
Yeah.
It's the trophy, it's the validation that we
Yeah.
know what we're doing.
If I remember, I remember my first big trophy was about 3 years into my career.
Yeah.
And it took me about a year of chasing them before I finally got the email. And I remember sitting in my office. I could recall it perfectly today. I remember sitting in my office. I got the email. The guy's name was Derek. He emailed me. He said, "We're going to go with you guys." And at the time in the organization, I was managing like a $700,000 territory, $1 million territory. This was a $3 million customer.
Yeah.
And I remember I got the email and I stood up and I was like, I didn't even know what to do. I didn't know who to call. I wasn't married at the time. I was dating my wife at the time. I think she was one of my first phone calls. It was like, oh my gosh, like we just got this business. And then the people, I worked in an office then. And I remember I went out and I told everybody. We went out that night. We celebrated with a dinner because we just won this super large deal. So when you think of when you put it in that perspective for me, I absolutely remember that to this day vividly.
And that's it. I think it's a mistake that a lot of first-time leaders make. They make the new person with almost no territory, start from scratch and just get rejection, rejection, rejection. And I think that builds them up, but I think it kind of tears them down too. You need a little bit of success.
You mean throw them in the deep end and see if they can swim, right?
Well, yeah, with
Yeah.
no life raft, with no rope,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, so something that I have tried to be cognizant of because I am responsible for the hiring and the administration of the territory that I run, the region that I run, and we hire people all the time. I just was in Detroit for an interview not too long ago, and one of the things that I try to make people comfortable with is to understand that they're with a company today. Oftentimes we recruit people that are successful in the industry. We don't just put a job out and hope we get applicants. We don't go to market that way. So we are recruiting people that are already successful, have built a life at the company they're at, and try to understand, at least from my perspective, is how scary that is, that I'm going to leave this company I've been a part of for 15 years and come over here and trust this guy, me, and the company that I work for, that it's going to be better for whatever I'm trying to achieve in my career, whether it's, upward movement, better compensation, more freedom, better morale, whatever one of those key cornerstones is. So one of the very first things that I try to do is after we do the onboarding, I get them involved with the team right away and sharing in the successes of going and working with their teammates, working with them myself, and telling all what I consider funny stories now of all the times that I failed and all just the crazy, silly mistakes that I've made, because your employees will know if you're in it with them or not. They will get the sense. They will absolutely know if you view them as above them or view them as below you. I'm the manager and you got to do what I say. And, all these different things. I am adamantly against that attitude. And I go out with my team constantly and get told no together, and because rejection is a huge part of sales. And we all try to get better of, asking better questions and having a better process and trying to be more efficient. But the best salespeople in the world are still going to get told no more than they're ever going to get told yes. And I think it's important, at least from my perspective, to make sure that the team that I work with know that I get told no all the time too, still. And I want to go get told no with them because it makes those yeses so much more awesome.
And what do you look for in reps?
I personally look for a little bit of impatience. I look for a little bit of a personality edge. I'm not looking for robots.
Yeah.
I look for people that I can sense a passion in. I don't get hung up on technical skill or product knowledge, maybe as some others might. Um, I want to know somebody who's going to get up. I want to find out if someone's going to get upset if they get told no. I want to know if they're going to take that a little bit personally. So they go out and they try to either prove that person that just told them no wrong. Like, I know you told me no right now, but I'm not quitting, which is important in this environment. I'll circle back to that in a second. But I try to get a feel for passion more than I try to get a feel for any type of product or technical knowledge or skill, because I feel like that can be taught. I can't teach you sense of urgency. That is an inherent.
Well, when you say passion, let me see if I make sure I understand it. Is it an emotional attachment to winning or losing?
Absolutely.
Caring?
Absolutely. Competitiveness, you
Yeah.
know, do you want to win no matter how silly the contest is? Absolutely.
And without that, do you feel like you don't have a match where somebody's like too even keeled?
Yeah. So I'm a pretty emotional, high energy person myself. Big shock for somebody in sales to have a little bit of an edge and impatience to them. I realize that. Um, I would definitely say it's more of a struggle to find out if somebody that is um, more even killed, to use your words, finding out if that's going to be a fit within the particular dynamic that I've created within the region that I run within the company. Now we have several different regions, and none of us manage the same way. We all have different styles and certainly different personalities, but I happen to run a very successful region, and we have found a lot of success. And a lot of my high performers that are doing incredibly well share a lot of similar traits, and they're kind of the ones that I called back to when we first kind of went down this subject line.
And what do they have that the average player doesn't have without identifying individuals?
So I think there's an X factor when you talk about sales, and it's not something that can be captured in an Excel spreadsheet. It's not something that can be captured.
KPI.
Yeah, it's not something that can be captured in a how many calls are you going to make today. It's not something that can be captured in one of those obnoxious personality index pre-interview things that sometimes people have to fill out, like where it shows your personality level and it gives you a bar graph, and it's like it is a sense that I think that you can only get from getting to know someone personally. You try to catch their emotion, their vibe in in-person interviews, phone calls leading up to the interviews. Um, but I know who the top performers in our company are. I know who the top performers in our region, our specific region are. And Brian, honestly, I think the best way to say it is the cliche, they don't take no for an answer. They understand you're going to say no, and they're almost surprised when you don't say no, because they're programmed to understand that it's going to take so many no's before you finally convince somebody to give you a shot. And sometimes you do get lucky, right? Sometimes you're sitting there, and that buyer or that procurement or that director or that VP is finally fed up with whatever company that they're using today for the services that we provide. And sometimes you get lucky and you catch that opportunity. But there's just driven, passionate folks that not only don't take no from the customer, but also don't take no from their own company when we tell them that maybe this isn't the deal we should go after. They still want to try to find a way to make it work.
Is it likability? Is it pure force of willpower?
Yeah, I think it's both. Yeah, I think likability. But listen, I think likability in sales, in sales, I think likability is a huge proponent of it, right? I mean, people are going to buy from people they want to hang out with and like. You know, people are going to do business with you because they choose to, not because they have to.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's something that you guys preach a lot in a lot of your podcasts. At the end of the day, it's do I want to talk to this person on the phone, and do I want them to come into him, and do I want to talk to them face to face? Yes or no? Do I like them? In my industry, what we do today, we don't do a whole lot of things from a commodity standpoint that are unique. We sell a lot of the same things that a lot of companies do. But at the end of the day, the biggest differentiating factor is the person that's sitting in the room, right? It's me, it's the salespeople, it's the team together. It's what are our personalities like? Do we mesh? And from the other end of the table, do I trust this person is going to solve my problem? And I assure you, in supply chain right now, there is a whole long list of problems.
Yeah.
We deliver a lot of bad news right now because the container's stuck in LA and it didn't have as much inventory in it as we thought it did. That's a big problem right now.
Well, I think in sales, people either discount likability to nothing or think it's everything. I think the customer, you're right. They either have to talk to you or they want to talk to you.
That's right.
And if they don't have to, you got to work on they want to.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Because listen, how many sales calls have we made in our life where the person knows within the first 2 seconds, oh, hi, Mr. Customer, how are you? Or did I catch you at a good time? I mean, they know within a millisecond that this is already a sales call, and they're making the face that you just made. They're like,
Yep.
oh my gosh, like it's Friday, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm trying to get out of here. I'm not trying to talk to you right now. So
Yeah.
the cards are already stacked against us the second we reach out in the first place.
Well, if we act, and I think that's the worst thing we can do is act like a sales rep.
Exactly right.
Why do that? It's like, why act the worst way possible? You'd be better off yelling at them or trying to certainly crack them up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go be, but you might as well just go be blunt and very direct. Hey, I sell this stuff. Do you want to buy this stuff from me? Yes or no? Because if you don't, I got to hang up and call somebody else because I got metrics I got to meet today.
Right.
Like,
it's least honest.
yeah, right. I mean, that's absolutely right. So, part of that is, likability factor is huge, but so many salespeople, and guilty of all the things that I did, of the flaws that I see in folks that I work with today, right? Guilty of not being prepared, not doing any kind of research whatsoever, just doing zero research, not educating myself on what the customer does, what their motivation might be for even taking a meeting from. I was in a meeting not very long ago with a top performer of mine, a guy that causes zero issues over here, does nothing but hit it out of the park, hit his yearly budget for the company like 3 months ago. Like, he's that far ahead, right? Clearly a top performer. We were sitting in a meeting and we started talking to this person, and he started talking about cost savings and traditional procurement topics. The person we were talking to worked on the line where we're at as a manager on the line. They didn't care one lick about cost savings. Their compensation, how they got paid within their company, had nothing to do with how expensive the thing was we were trying to sell. And I pointed that out to them after we got out of that call. I'm like, we're having a conversation with somebody that saw no benefit in anything that we just said. So we circled back to that customer, approached it from a different angle, and won their business, because to them, it was more about being able to get them their products on time in the environment that we're in today. It wasn't about how much it cost at all, because that wasn't a motivating factor for that customer. And that was a top performing salesperson that made that mistake.
Yeah, because they get comfortable in a rut where they hit on something and they keep hitting on it regardless of who's on the other end.
That's exactly right. And common mistake. Made it myself many, many, many times.
And kind of the question I always used to ask a rep is, what do you think they're going to ask us before you go in?
That's an excellent question. Definitely something that I want to remember. My leader always asks a question that I picked up on. When you go into the traditional sales pitch, right? We're in a room, like your background right there, and we all take our seat at the table, and we got the presentation ready to go, right? We got the PowerPoint ready to go. Number one, we do a good job making sure it's not 40 slides, because thank God. But he always starts the meeting off almost the exact same way every time, and he goes around to each individual participant and he says, "What are you hoping to accomplish out of this meeting today?" Because what it has saved us from, more times than not, is pulling up slide 3 of the presentation, talking about something that no one even cares about. And matter of fact, just a few months ago, we were in a very big meeting trying to expand with one of our larger customers, and we had rehearsed our presentation, made sure our 7 slides hit on all the things that we talked about. We go and we walk into that room, we ask that question to the director, the big decision maker in that room, and we never opened up the presentation that we spent so much time working on, because he asked that question, "What do you want to accomplish today?" And it had nothing to do with what we were about ready to present. And it saved the meeting, because who wants to sit in there and just be talked at about stuff that they don't even care about in the first place?
Right. It's a poorly done infomercial.
Absolutely.
In person.
Absolutely.
Yet they all have stuff on their mind.
Yeah, so it kind of goes in line with, what do you think they're going to ask us? I mean, that's great. And that's one thing I picked up in my time here, and I definitely love that question. Look forward to trying to integrate that into our strategy.
And it's kind of that empathy, the ability to kind of put yourself in that line person's role as well as the purchasing person, and become the therapist, because they're all facing challenges and nobody wants to hear about them. Right.
The hardest thing that I ever had to learn, and I remember my first reviews, and the first time I got constructive criticism, which is code for what I wasn't doing right in my manager at the time's eyes. I remember being told that I really wasn't listening. I spent too much time getting ready to answer. I was already preparing for what I was going to say, and I wasn't even listening for what this person was trying to tell me what their problems were. And learning from that has been one of the biggest challenges, certainly in the early part of my career, is to go into a meeting, ask those key questions, and then just sitting there and letting it come to you versus trying to be in control and making it come to me, right? I mean, the big key difference.
Yeah, because after a few minutes, the first thing they say probably won't have anything to do with you.
That's right.
The second or third thing might be something you can help them with.
We again, it's so funny. You hit everything that is so true, because this is all very important to me. Was literally at a customer meeting with our president. This was last Monday. We took a customer out to lunch, got him out of the office, right? So we could talk about all things that weren't work related. And we spent a lot of time, this was in Chicago. So we spent time talking about the Bears and talking about the Cubs and all the Chicago things. And we were at a sports bar having this lunch with this guy. And about 15 minutes from when we had the end of the meeting, he finally just popped the top off of what was really bothering him at his organization with his coworkers, what we were doing right, what we could do better, what we were missing the boat completely on. And we just finally got to the root cause of why we were actually there, even though we had just had an hour-long meeting in the boardroom and we'd sat through 45 minutes of lunch. So we've been 2 hours working on this problem already. Then finally at the end, we gained his trust, and he finally just let it out. And no one but him said anything for a good 15 or 20 minutes. And then we finally figured out what we needed to do to solve the problem.
And it's pure gold. Because
absolutely was.
Well, people think it's just about the Bears and the Cubs. That's just the warm up. It's like you don't even. I don't even know the difference between the Bears and the Cubs, right? But I'll ask.
That's right.
Get them talking. Then they start opening up, and people are trying to be efficient instead of effective.
That's exactly right.
That was effective.
Yeah, it absolutely was. It took a long time to get there, but we finally reached that point of likability and trust where we finally figured out that we had like goals. We wanted to solve the same problem, because it's a newer customer, right? There's always bumps with the new customers, because that's the nature of the beast. Things don't ever implement as smoothly as we all talk about in our sales pitches about how it's going to be a zero speed bump implementation, and then of course it never is. And it was just about some of those speed bumps, and we finally got to the bottom of it. But again, to your point, we finally got to a point where he was comfortable letting us know what the true problem was. And it wasn't for the first hour and 45 minutes with the first 50 questions.
Right, because you could have asked that question in the boardroom.
Could have.
But the answer wouldn't have been.
Yeah, probably wouldn't have gotten the same result at all.
No, it would have been some superficial thing. Oh, the price is too high. The shipments are too late. Well, and then you'd go off and try and solve that problem that isn't the real problem.
The price is too high and the shipments are too late should be the title of a podcast if I ever start one in this current environment, because that's literally all my day is riddled with right now. Right. Trying times right now. First we get hit with the pandemic, which turns everything on its head. And now we still have the pandemic, but now also we have
We
a
can't
global
get
supply
anything.
chain. Yeah, now we have a global supply chain crisis, from everything to the shirt I'm wearing to the phone that's sitting on my desk. I mean, it's unbelievable, and it's incredibly challenging. And I long for the day that we all finally get to look back and laugh at all of this.
And when you're interviewing, how do you find out if the person has the X factor?
Great question. Of course, we have our designed questions and our stereotypical traditional questions, but I go into my same interviews. I go into my interviews with the same strategy in mind, where I start the interview off, do a history of the company, why the position's open, give the background. And then I always pretty much say the same thing. I say, listen, you've been through the recruiting process, you've been asked all the typical HR questions. I've given you the background of the company. I want to give this time to you and let you ask any questions of me or the company that you need to know to feel comfortable. Vast majority of times, I can find out pretty quickly what their motivating factor is. Do they not like their boss? Do they not like their pay? Do they not like their territory? Do they not the wide variety of complaints? And then we can kind of take that conversation from there. And if I can find out what they're passionate about, and then just kind of talk about it, and then you just get a sense in a conversation. Is the conversation over in 20 minutes? Because if the conversation's over in 20 minutes, we already know our answer, right? Neither one of us wants to be there. We don't want to hold this conversation any further. The last interview that we did with the last applicant we were fortunate enough to bring over here and join the team, that interview lasted 2 hours. Because when people are passionate about something, they will continue to talk to you,
Yeah.
and you understand the quality of that conversation.
And what type of passions are you looking for? Competitive, financial?
Both. Absolutely. I mean, and, everybody's trying to support their life, whether it's, two kids and a white picket fence, or they're trying to travel, even though it's a little difficult right now. Or they're trying to travel, or they're trying to fund their hobby, where it's racing cars or hunting or golfing, whatever it is, competitiveness is certainly a kind of a key indicator. What did they do in high school? What did they do in college? What's their extracurricular activities? I mean, that's certainly a driving force. What are their financial goals? What are their career goals? Do I have somebody who is run the rat race already and they're not looking to have that type of responsibility anymore? Or do I have somebody that's just entering the rat race and they're trying to go as high as they can fly right now, right? I mean, it's kind of two different things. And, we have people from all walks, but, I think those are certainly some key indicators. Is, how long of a conversation can you have, and what are the different things that you talk about? I find that our most successful interviews start off a little bit about work, but then start turning into more personal things. What are the things that we enjoy? What are we working for? We're not working just to be at work all day long. I'm not. I'm trying to go out and enjoy my life with my family. And this career provides me the financial support to go do the things that I want to do with my family and go have fun vacations, and trying to figure out what people's motivations are.
And have you ever had any false positives where the interview went really well, but they didn't work out?
Yeah. Yes. I have been sold many times, because that's effectively the question, right? Did somebody pull the wool over my eyes? My boss tells me all the time. He goes, I've had more failures than I've had successes trying to hire the right people, because sometimes people are great presenters and sometimes people are great speakers, and you get in here and you know it in the back of your mind almost immediately, Brian. At least I do. I mean, I know you go through the training, you have the preliminary phone calls, and then that thing happens that causes you to kind of like that voice in the back of your head, and you're just that instinct that you develop as a leader, that something is off. And that is a very humbling feeling to know, because it's my fault. It's 100% my fault. I made a bad judgment call. It was a failure of mine, right? The team, they have their failures of trying to land a customer and they get their no's and rejections. And then I have a failure of trying to bring on, the right teammate for, whatever position we have open at the time. So, I think as a leader, it's important that you share your failures also with the team so they know that, you don't think that you get everything right. And, you know, have certainly failed at that. I'm sure that I will continue to. I try to be as successful at it as possible, but
Have you found particular questions, or how do you look for that so that they may be a great person to have an interview with, but do they understand how to sell a deal?
so I have a couple things that I look for because a lot of people are in sales because they've been told that they're a super nice person to deal with.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, you also have to have the guts, the edge that after you get through the super nice part of being approachable and likable, you still got to have that gumption to say, okay, I'm nice. You like me. Now buy from me and change for me. Change what you were doing before you ever met me and change to this thing that I want you to do now. Because no matter how likable you are, change is hard. And everybody, myself included, resists it.
Yes.
And that is difficult. So I try to figure out, have they ever promoted change before? And I ask a couple of key questions. One of the questions I always ask is, tell me about the last time you made a customer mad, because I want to get through the superficial, I'm a super likable person and I never make anybody mad and everybody buys from me because I'm so awesome. Of course, you believe that as a salesperson. You should have confidence in yourself. But I also want to know about when it didn't work out and what you did. What you did and what you take accountability for causing that situation to happen. Were you reactive to a situation? Were you proactive to a situation? I asked that. I also asked the same question every time because I was asked when I was first being considered to being elevated into management. We had this intercompany program, and I had to sit at a boardroom like that. I was nominated by my peers to go over to Europe and take a management class and go through this little intercompany process that we had. And somebody asked me a question. This was 10 years ago, roughly, maybe 8 years ago, not entirely sure. They asked me, what was more important to a company's overall success and health? They asked me if I thought it was results or if I thought it was morale. And I answered that question immediately and I said results. And I was sure I was right. I knew that was the right question. I knew that was the right answer to that question. I believed it in my mind. And then some years down the road, I made a shift. I still work for the same parent company. I just work for a different division now. And this division goes about business entirely differently than the other division because it's two different sides of the business altogether. So it's two completely different companies owned by the same parent group. And then I worked in a different environment for coming up on 5 years now. And I am so much more the other way now that I look back when I answer that question that it was results based. I know why I answered that question the way I did back then. And I will never not believe that morale is the single most 100% most important thing to a company's overall success now, because happy people thrive and they nurture that passion and they're dedicated and they get out of bed in the morning and they don't do, oh, it's Friday.
Not another day.
Yeah, another day doing this again. And it took me a while to learn that, but that is 100% my true belief today.
Cool.
But some years ago in my beginning of my career, I didn't think it was true at all.
Well, that's a great point. Hey, Jeff, I really appreciate your time today. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
Yeah, so obviously I'm out on LinkedIn, so I think I'm connected to several people of your show. So if anybody's interested in anything that I have to say or anything like that, right on LinkedIn, and all my information's on there. And again, just want to say, huge fan of your show and your podcast and all the people that you have working for you. Love your stuff. And it resonates a lot with me. So thank you for having me.